through the whole branding process, the logo and all of that, and you're putting it out there, and you have all these different assets you're looking at and thinking about, and then you have all these different experts that you call upon, and you're looking at colors and materials and stuff. When do you know when to stop? When do you know, will it be that moment was like, that's it? Or, because after a while you can smell too many perfumes, and then you're like, you know, and you're having everybody say, no, I like that, or I like that. So you go out and you say, maybe I shouldn't listen to anybody, I should just rely on my own instinct. When do you figure out this is it, and then, or do you do some sort of testing, like some A/B testing, or, you know, something out there to help you make that final decision? I've had a company before, and I went through it, but now it's all over again. So I was just curious, when do you say stop?
Sorry, I was laughing because I was, in my mind, I was thinking about that dating experience, and I think it's quite relevant here. So the answer is somewhere the answer is somewhere in the middle, right? You don't want, as a guy, you don't want to propose after you have dated only 1 or 2 people. Mm-hmm. And again, if you after you have dated, I don't know, God knows, 20, 30 women or more, then it's kind of jaded experience. And like you say, you smell too many perfume, you can't even decide.
Right.
So it's somewhere in the middle, and this is where you really have to, especially for startup, when you have the luxury of not having a committee, a board of 10 people to please, right? Mm-hmm. When I worked with, earlier, when I worked with some startup people, I really asked them to really, it may sound fluffy, but it is true. Again, don't go with the first or the second or the third, have a bunch, but then you take a step back and you really see what really speaks to your heart. So for instance, I was working with this very small 2-people startup about the online and the photography and the video production. And they were looking at many different ways to brand. And then one day when I was talking to them, and he was talking passionately about how he loved the black and white, the classic approach in photography, that real core beauty that nowadays with the computer graphic is all flashy. Mm-hmm. I was like, maybe that's it. Maybe for you, that is that love for timeless and very classic approach. So now he has a very unique way to go out there to sell his portfolio. He's not competing with all the other graphic designers, but he and his still very small firm compete on projects that ask for that timeless, classic look of things. So I think a lot of time, especially since you are the founder, implicitly or explicitly you have the vision for it. So.
Well, sometimes you can get into that situation where you, as a founder, you can also see, oh, that really talks to me, and that should be important because it's your product, it's your message. But maybe that product just goes talks to you, and that product may not speak to your target audience that way. So then you're thinking about, okay, it works for me. It doesn't automatically mean it's going to work for your target market.
That is where this sweet spot has to come in, right? Steve Jobs was not out there to sell his Apple products to everyone. Mm-hmm. He was out there to sell Apple products to the people who share with him the passion that, you know, technology products doesn't have to be cold and technical. They can be human. I keep looking at that man sitting at the back of the room. You know, Apple was the first one to have that Apple icon glowing. And since then, you see many other, So Steve Jobs is not out there, and that's why you have half of the world still on Android and Microsoft, and the other half on Apple. You are not out there to talk to everyone. When you date, you're not out there to date everyone. You have your own value, your vision, you're out there, and that's where you have to find that sweet spot.
It's really delightful that you talk so much about dating, because I'm building a dating app. And I have a 2-part question. The first one is a little silly, but say you have a couple $100,000 to invest towards marketing, branding. How much of that do you think should be allocated towards actual ad buys and stuff like that, and how much towards a consultant or associate that will run it for you? Because I hate to pay somebody $100,000 so you can spend the other $100,000 on actual customer acquisition. And then the second question is, so for example, I had the initial vision for the app, was actually very much short-term dating driven. And then out of the blue, I just came up with a functionality that would make it perfect for more of a long-term dating thing, more of a serious mainstream thing. And so I had branding, because it's important to do so from the very beginning, I had branding in mind like from the get-go, and then all of a sudden it changes because of that. Or I came up with something that would be much more attractive to millennials, before it was for more people my generation. So how much should the actual product drive the branding as it changes, and how much, at what point you have to say, okay, this is what I'm doing. No, that's it.
I'm looking to Stephen because when it comes to money allocation and buying.
I think it's a tough question. I mean, it's one of the first things I always ask my clients is to look at their business plan, because that reveals a lot to me. Business plan, positioning. I mean, there are a whole slew of things you need to do in order to really assess that properly. Even in terms of looking at competition. The first thought that came to mind was, are you looking at, most buyers buy based on risk. They don't buy based on reward. This is one of the misconceptions about branding. People think branding is all about let's put all the positive stuff about ourselves. But that's not how people buy. They're buying this product here because it's going to help them do something. It's kind of like the simple product. That's an excellent example of the risk buy. So what risk are you, what challenge are you kind of addressing? If you look at the history of a lot of these apps, they take a lot of time to develop their brand message or brand, persona. Facebook, started in college dorms, and and it kind of took a little bit of time to evolve. I think it's a hard question to ask without actually having more information. I'd love to be able to give you an answer on how to spend $200,000, but you can spend it in all kinds of ways. It really depends on what you're building and how you're projecting that. My first thought, and I'm talking to somebody else about this, was to start actually doing some social media and develop yourself as a thought leader. It's a way to start introducing the concept to the world, or at least having somebody behind it that is trying to talk about this new concept that you have. And how different is it from every other dating app? Is it very different? Is it similar? Like, what's the value that you're bringing to the marketplace with your dating app? Do you have a sense of that? Is it something?
Yeah. Yes, it's I mean, without going into detail, the concept is that you kind of get you get to eat the cake, have the cake and eat it too, in the sense that you get to be very exhaustive in listing your interests and preferences while retaining privacy in a way that the mechanics of it are different from all the other ones, which I.
So there's a lower risk.
Yes, much lower risk and much greater freedom to just express whatever it is you're into, proclivities, your interests, stuff like that.
I mean, I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on this. I just want to challenge.
I would answer it with a question, which is what percentage of your total cash is that? Are you going to spend 100% of? You have to support the rest of your operation too. So without knowing, what else you have at your disposal, it's a tough question to answer in absolute terms. It might be a question better phrased in terms of percentages. What percentage of my available liquidity should I allocate to this?